Before we begin today's episode, I want to share an important note with our viewers. This episode with Delaware Department of Transportation Secretary Shanté Hastings was recorded before December 23rd, 2025, when a gunman entered a Division of Motor Vehicles, an ordinary place, a public place, where Delawareans and public servants were simply going about their day, and created a moment of profound loss and disruption. In the days since, our administration has been working closely with Secretary Hastings and leadership at DelDOT to review security protocols, strengthen protections at DMVs across the state, and ensure that the people who work in these facilities and the Delawareans who rely on them are as safe as possible. Public servants deserve to feel secure in their workplaces, and their families deserve to know that they will be secure when they leave each day for work. Delawareans deserve to know that when they walk into a state facility, into a public place, their safety is of the utmost importance. That responsibility is something we do not take lightly. We remain fully committed to supporting the dedicated women and men who show up every day to serve the public, often in ways that go unseen, and to continuing the work of making our state's public spaces safer for everyone. With that context in mind, and with the sweet memories of Ty Snook in our heart, I want to turn now to today's conversation. Hi, I'm Governor Matt Meyer, and welcome to Matt Chats. On this podcast, we're talking with change makers. So join me as we sit down with the people who are making a difference and hear how they're working together to lead our way to a better Delaware. Hi, everyone. It's Delaware Governor Matt Meyer. Welcome back to Matt Chats. Twice a month, we're chatting with leaders, neighbors, and trailblazers from across the first state and beyond, talking about how we build stronger communities and support hardworking families. Today, we're turning our attention to something that impacts every single Delawarean every single day, transportation. I was once one of those little kids who loved cars and trucks and traffic lights. I now have a boy who loves cars and trucks and traffic lights, and many of those young kids, many adults dream of one day running the Delaware Department of Transportation. I'm here with our Secretary of Transportation, Shanté Hastings. Welcome, Shanté.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So this isn't Shanté's first rodeo. It might be our first podcast, but not even our first podcast. Shanté has dedicated her entire career to DelDOT, a Delaware gal, University of Delaware. You grew up in Delaware, right?
I did not. My husband did.
Gotcha.
He's a native Delawarean, but I came here for University of Delaware, and I've never left.
Great. Studied engineering?
Yes.
And then Secretary of Transportation.
Just like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, infrastructure is vitally important. It's actually, talking about cars and trucks and trains and bikes and planes is fun. But it's also really serious business for our country and for economic growth. Talk about why, with your skill set as an engineer coming out of the University of Delaware, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could have done. Why this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story, I'll say. So I ended up at University of Delaware because my great-grandfather was actually the first African-American male student to graduate from UD back in the early 50s.
Say his name.
Albert Weissner.
Uh-huh.
And so he was an engineer, and I was good at math and science. He encouraged me to go into engineering. I said, okay, and UD was the place where I landed, and I studied civil engineering. And my junior year, then Secretary Ann Canby came to as a guest speaker to a transportation planning course that I was in. And I had never heard of DelDOT, didn't know about state transportation departments, and it really piqued my interest. And that's how I ended up at the department. So I interned that summer. I actually got to work on the Namens Road dualization project, where we widened from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. And then when I was close to graduation, I pursued a full-time job at DelDOT. So I started out in transportation planning, moved over to the design side of the house, worked in maintenance, and then had the opportunity to come and work in the Secretary's office under Secretary Shailen Batt. And got to do a lot of things under his leadership, under Secretary Cohen's leadership, as well as Secretary Majeski. So kind of worked my way in a weird path. But I think I was attracted to transportation because it was one of those things in engineering that actually made sense. Mm-hmm. It wasn't doing all the, crazy calculus equations and not being sure, what are you going to do with this information? Mm-hmm. Transportation makes sense. We all use it, as you mentioned. It affects everybody every day. And so to have the opportunity to work on projects early on in my career that could transform a community, that could improve safety, that could improve people's quality of life, was something that I was very passionate about. And I've stuck with it for 25 years.
Wow. I know. So there's some impressive names there: Secretary Majeski, Secretary Cohen, Secretary Shailen Badu, I think, then ran the Federal Highway Administration.
He
Very
did
important
afterwards, yes.
in transportation in the country. But you also said maintenance. So
Yes.
Just to be clear, so you come out of University of Delaware an engineer.
Yes.
And what, a decade later or so, you're in the maintenance department?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So DelDOT, I think what folks, you see pieces of transportation that you use every day, but don't necessarily understand the vastness of the organization. So we are responsible for operating and maintaining the transportation infrastructure throughout the state. And so that takes engineering, right? Engineering at the end of the day is problem solving. Really, that's what we're trained to do. Yep, we're good at science and math, but we're problem solvers. We are presented with a problem, we come up with different ways to solve it, and we try to pick the one that best meets the need of everybody involved. And so in maintenance, whether we're building a new road or, let's take that, building a new road, you have to maintain it. So you don't just build it and go away, and 50 years later you rebuild it again.
I've spent time in places where they do that. Yeah,
right.
It's not
ideal.
Yeah.
So you have to go in, for pavements, you have to patch them on occasion, you have to seal the cracks, you have to do all that stuff to get the full useful life. Bridges, there are things that you have to do along its 75 to 100-year life. So maintenance also does the snow plowing. They mow the grass. They fix drainage issues. They do guardrail.
Let's get into it now. You said snow plowing.
Yeah. I did not plow any snow. That requires a CDL for the big trucks, and I didn't have that.
But you have some experience cleaning off the snow. I understand.
I do.
You're very accomplished in snow removal for DelDOT.
Yeah. So I was sharing with you earlier about an instance so early on when I moved into maintenance, I was the first woman to be assistant maintenance engineer throughout the state. And so, with that came a lot of responsibility to make sure that I was doing the best that I could so that I wouldn't be the only woman to be able to do that job. And so one of our first snowstorms went out, riding the roads, checking conditions, and we happened upon a vehicle that was, stranded in the lanes, and we wanted to get it off to make sure that it was safe and other people would be safe. And so my boss and I hopped out, and I'm small in stature, but I'm mighty and strong. And so I got out and we're pushing the vehicle together, and I lost my footing and I ended up face planted in the snow. We never really talked about it, which I credit him with, because it could have been a big discussion and, oh my gosh, look what happened to her. But, I've always been willing to roll up my sleeves. And I think that's why I was successful in our maintenance division. And that actually launched me. That's how I met Secretary Batt, believe it or not, because he was new to the state, and I encountered him during a hurricane event. And, we had some brief interactions, and a few months later, he had decided he wanted to start performance management at the department and gave me a call and said, you were the person that I thought of. And I still don't really understand why, because it was a pretty brief interaction, but that really changed my career trajectory. And without being in maintenance, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Great. And then you went straight from maintenance to writing Swiftie messages to keep people safe on Delaware roads?
We take a lot of pride in our message boards and the safety messages that we're able to convey.
You see them on 95, I think on Route 1, 2, things like texting and driving, shake it off.
Yes.
Hey, now you're an all-star, traffic jam. When you're already late, speeding is moronic.
That's right.
It's me, hi, your seatbelt. You're writing these things?
I don't have the opportunity to write many of them, but I have on occasion made suggestions, and we've moved forward with them.
And you veto some of them.
And I veto some of them. We have a team that works on them, and they come up with ideas, but then others throughout the department on occasion might come up with something. We try to tie it to whether there's a holiday or something going on. And then sometimes it's song lyrics. We try to make it relevant. It has to be about safety. So you won't ever see a happy birthday, Shanté, on the message boards. But we try to make it eye-catching, and it's one of those things that we get the most positive comments on.
Yeah, I've heard quite a few Delawareans. In fact, I was told this morning that, hey, I was in Pennsylvania, and the message said, slow down, buckle up. I'm not going to do that. That doesn't capture my... Who's reading that?
That's boring.
That's boring. So you still, regardless of whether you're reading the messages or not, you should slow down.
Yes.
You should
slow down and buckle up.
You should buckle up. It's very important. Delaware has also done what's called a road diet.
Yes.
Trying to get more people to bike. We are consistently rated among the best nations in the country for bike pass, the prevalence of bike pass in communities across our state. And I know you've been a big part of it. It wasn't like that when you first joined DelDOT.
Right.
Earlier this fall, the Millsboro bypass opened with more than 2 miles of separated pathways for pedestrians and cyclists. That's the past and the present. What does the future of transportation look like?
So I think the future of transportation, I think what we have to realize is we can't build out of congestion. And so we've got to get people taking multimodal trips. We've got to get people walking and biking and using transit. And so I think over the next 25 years, you're going to continue seeing us investing in sidewalks and shared use paths and figuring out better ways to connect communities and expanding our transit opportunities. We did a study and released the findings of it last year called DART Reimagined. I like to say that we've been trying to run kind of an urban transit model in mainly suburban Delaware and in some cases rural Delaware. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to have a circulating bus. But what does work...
It doesn't work. People just don't use it.
We don't have the density, right? And so we don't have enough people using it. It's not at the times that people necessarily want. And so we've had 2 pilots, which at this point you probably can't call them pilots anymore because they're years. They've been in existence for years. But between Millsboro and Georgetown, for instance, we run what's called microtransit. So it's a shorter bus. You can either on the app tell the bus, I'd like you to pick me up from here, take me to there. It's $2. And that's the kind of transit that people are looking for, especially in the kind of more of the suburban and even rural areas. And so as part of that plan, we've got probably a dozen or so new microtransit routes that we want to launch over the next few years.
Like a group taxi, Uberish.
Exactly.
Like a group taxi.
Exactly. And it'll collect the trips. Like if you have multiple people in the Millsboro area that want to go to Georgetown and they, call it up at the same time, then they all get on the bus together, and that's more efficient for us.
Sure.
And it meets their needs in a much better way. And so things like that we're focused on. We just, finished upgrading the Claymont train station and building a brand new station in hopes to both provide better access to people, but also in alignment with hopefully some transit-oriented development from the private sector. And so things like that. We're looking at, downstate rail and what opportunities exist there. We're looking at can we do more enhanced direct bus routes between Wilmington and the beach.
Bus rapid transit.
Looking at a variety of different issues, but I think we need to use all of those, and then they all fall under the umbrella of safety. We have a vision of towards 0 deaths across the country. I have the unfortunate experience of losing a family member in a crash when I was pregnant with my daughter, so it was 18 years ago. I'll never forget all of those things that happened and the pain that it still exists today for our family. And so we want to make sure that everybody gets to go home safely. And so we've adopted what's called the Safe System approach, which DOTs across the country have been adopting from the Federal Highway Administration, where we look at safety differently. Death and serious injuries are unacceptable. Humans are vulnerable. Humans make mistakes. Responsibility is shared. Safety is proactive. When you look at it through that lens, we do things like doing the median barrier down Route 1. That's not a requirement, right? But you have one bad wrong way crash and you've ruined people's lives.
They were just starting to put that
right.
in,
And so that's what we've been investing in that, and it's a lot of money to do. But I can tell you, every time I drive up and down Route 1 a lot, and every time I see posts knocked down, we have to go out and fix that. Our maintenance crews fix that. But that means that a crash didn't go into the other lanes,
they
right?
Just hit hit a post instead of hitting another
exactly.
human being.
And so very focused on safety, but I think trying to move people in different ways is really the future of transportation.
So if I'm listening to you now and I use Delaware roads, what do you want me to do?
In terms of as a driver,
Yeah.
as any road user, really. So I talked about responsibility being shared. So drivers need to be looking out for other drivers, for pedestrians, for cyclists, right? cyclists need to be making eye contact with drivers. Pedestrians need to be doing that same. We all kind of have that shared responsibility. I want people to buckle up, to slow down, to pay attention, to be patient. Yes, we do have congestion in places. Being impatient doesn't make it go away.
Yeah.
And so one of the DOTs says, pack your patience, which I really like that one. But I think we can all work together. And then the other piece, and I pitched this to my team, and we want to try and do something more kind of statewide, is let's do a everybody use transit today day, right? Let's just try it. I've used the bus a few times in the last few weeks. It's lovely. I can get work done. I'm traveling from Lewis up to Dover, so it's almost an hour. And I can get things done. It's time to maybe meditate. Everybody, for the most part, has an opportunity to use transit, and let's try to get people using it so that they can see that it's actually an option for travel, and then we can start, further expanding it.
I'm game, especially if I'm in Millsboro and want to go to Georgetown.
Yeah,
they pick me
let's
up.
do it.
They pick me up curbside. How do you think a small state like Delaware thrives? I often feel like when I'm down in Washington as the governor, I feel like sometimes small states can kind of be an afterthought. They're looking to get resources to big states. And how do we innovate the way we want in a time? Let's be honest, Shanté, the country ain't working the way it's supposed to be working right now. Washington's not working, and it's not just in the past week or month or two. It's been a while.
Sure.
How do we get things right here, even if Washington's not working?
Yep. So I think there's so many benefits to Delaware specifically, but also being small. So I have the opportunity through the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO for short, to collaborate with the other DOT CEOs across the country. And so being small has a lot of advantages, especially when you talk about innovation. I've got 4 maintenance districts, 3 counties. So if we want to try something new, it's much easier for us to do it than, say, a Texas, because I'm not coordinating with so many people. We have an innovation culture within our department, and so we are willing to try new things. Let's see if that works, and if it works, we can easily, expand it. So I think there's a lot of benefits. Now, yes, it's harder competing for certain things at the federal level being small, because oftentimes a lot of the, grants, for instance, are thought of for like the bigger states. And so one of the grants is called MEGA. We don't have billion-dollar projects just hanging around waiting for funding. And so it can be tricky to compete, but through AASHTO, we're able to advocate for the smaller states and say, like, hey, if you're going to do this program, can you make sure that there's a set aside for the smaller states so that we can compete, because we are a little bit different. But I think there's a lot of benefits. For DelDOT specifically, we own and maintain almost 90% of the transportation network in the state. Most state DOTs are around 20 or 30%. So there's so much more collaboration with counties and townships and municipalities. So there are benefits, but we also have a lot of priorities when that comes into play. A pothole on 95 is equal in some cases to a pothole in a neighborhood for folks, right?
Right.
It's not from the traffic standpoint, but it is in terms of users and quality of life. So that can be a challenge, but I think our team has done a great job of trying to balance all of those priorities.
Listen, you've dedicated your entire career to DelDOT from when you were graduating as an engineer at University of Delaware. I'm afraid to tell you this. You probably can make a lot more money, certainly with your experience, maybe work a little bit less, have fewer people stop you in the supermarket to tell you about potholes or signs that are missing or traffic lights that aren't quite right. Why do you do this? Why do you choose public service, and why State of Delaware service?
Yeah. So I chose DelDOT because, as I mentioned, when I interned, I had a fantastic experience. It was a family-like atmosphere, teamwork, collaboration, and everybody trying to pull together for the good of people. And that's the type of person I am. That's the family I come from, is trying to help people. And that's what we're here to do. I see transportation as a vehicle, if you will, to opportunity for people, whether it's working or education, medical appointments, going to see a friend or a family member. It affects everybody every day, regardless of, even when you don't leave your house in a day, right? Transportation still affects you because you want to get your mail. You want your packages from whatever you ordered online to come to you. You might be homebound and need your medication delivered. So it really does have a huge impact on folks, and I'm just passionate about trying to improve that. I care a lot about our community. I'm a mom, so I want to see our community thrive.
In Sussex County.
I'm a mom in Sussex County of 2 girls. One is at University of Delaware now as a freshman, so she just started a few weeks ago, and the other is a junior in high school. So I have 2 drivers. That was a lot for me. When you're in the transportation business, the pressure of having your kids go out and drive with some of the crazy things that you see can be stressful. But yeah, I want Delaware to thrive and to be great for my kids and my grandkids and who knows who else.
A comedian a few weeks ago, I don't remember who it was, said, they said, what % of people are texting and driving? And he said, I did a study. It's 100%. He's like, when you're driving on the highway, just look left, look right. And it's scary. As someone who bikes quite a bit, it's scary to think that I might get knocked and someone's not even paying attention. What do you think we should be doing?
So I think there are so many ways to tackle this problem. I think one is just an education piece. I would frankly love to have kind of a simulator to sit people in to show them how inattentive they are when they're texting. Because I think the thought is, I'm different. I can focus. Bless you. I can focus, while doing. You can't.
Right.
You can't do all the things. And it just takes 1 second for you not to see something and not be able to react fast enough. So I think there's an education piece. I think there's Georgia DOT has a great education program that they developed a few years ago from K to 12 on just safety and transportation in general. And we are hopeful to bring something similar here. I like to tell people I buckle my seatbelt anytime I get into a car. Doesn't matter what car, doesn't matter if I'm going next door to my neighbor's house, because I learned that as a kid.
Yeah.
And I knew that was important. And so I think when it comes to texting and driving and inattentive driving, I think starting at the kid level, but then there's technology that can help that too, right? We are not, America as a whole is more focused on people having free will than necessarily keeping each other safe. A vehicle doesn't need to go over even 80 miles per hour, right? We could change that if we wanted to.
Right.
We could have technology that your phone is disabled as soon as you get in your vehicle, unless you're stopped. So there are solutions to a lot of our problems that we're not really willing to tackle at this point. So it's really an education and enforcement effort at this point.
Yeah. So in other states and places around the world, it is called a license plate. In Delaware, we call it my precious investment in my family's future. DelDOT oversees the license plate program. It's impressive. We just announced one, I think yesterday or the day before, signed a bill creating the 250th anniversary of the country license plate. Talk a little bit about our amazing license plate program.
Yes. So the most coveted, I'll say, license plates are the low-digit ones. I don't know the history behind it. I don't understand it, but it gives you status when you have a lower digit license plate. You notice it while you're driving around. It's something that people are passionate about, but they're also passionate about different specialty plates. So you mentioned the 250th. There are lots of license plates that support different organizations, Autism Delaware, the Pollinator Program, you name it. And people love their license plates here. It's a different. When people move here, they don't understand. They're like, "What's going on with the license plate?" I'm like, "I can't really describe it, but you want a low digit
quickly.
one."
You want a low number, and you'll get it quickly. If you don't know now, you will know soon.
Yeah. So, but yes, we do. Our DMV team is amazing. They serve so many customers every day, every week, every year, and license plates are a big part of that. And we get to give away a low-digit license plate during the state fair. So you and I got to do that a few months ago. But yeah, license plates are a fascination in Delaware that I feel like it's different than any other place in the country that I've ever been.
Yeah, great. Anything else?
I don't think so. This has been fun.
Good. We really appreciate your service to the state. I know that transportation's like a lot of things in this job where people really pay attention to it and call your office when things are not going right. But I would bet a lot that for the overwhelming majority of Delawareans, the overwhelming majority of the time, our roads, our bridges, our bike lanes our soon-to-be, hopefully, trains. Our DART, it runs really well, and it's thanks to you and a whole lot of dedicated people across DelDOT that make it possible. So thanks for your service to the state. And if you're a driver, commuter, or neighbor, stay engaged, support safe and sustainable infrastructure. It takes money to do this, and it's important money that adds to economic growth. And let's all work to keep building a Delaware that moves everyone forward.